915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between. This is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game.
And we are back with it's a whole new edition of Inside Texas High School Soccer. I am joined by as I call him, dub him the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Texas High School Soccer, Coach Rafa, as well as our newest contributor, newest member of the family, Steve. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing good. I've been watching a lot of games lately, going out to support local soccer. So, yeah, I can't complain if I'm going out and watching games.
Rafa?
Good. Live here from Laredo, Texas. So I'm here for the week, doing some work. And great. Like I said, me and Steve did a game on Friday night. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But just looking for this upcoming wind down of the district play. So we'll see how things shape up.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys. It's been 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks since the last episode, since episode 5. So we're proud to be here with you, and glad to have you here for episode 6. Again, as a reminder, we're powered by our proud partners at College Promoters USA. They are America's premier college prep program and high school student athlete marketing service since 1997. Located here in the San Antonio area. For those of you that are local, you can find them in the Ventura Plaza Shopping Center. But you can also find them on social media, on Twitter at SAT Recruiting, as well as on Instagram at College Promoters USA. And you can also get more information on the many cool things they're doing and what they're about on their website at collegepromotersusa.com. So before we get started, I know we had an interesting take here. We had Rafa, I call him also the most interesting man in the world, right? Because he's all over the state. I know we had discussed briefly. You told us about it last Friday, but I'm going to throw it to you right now. Tell us. I know you had the opportunity to attend a game up in Waco. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh,
you're muted, buddy.
Mute.
There you go.
So I do recruitment for, like I said, for University of Sweet Tour. So I was in the Waco area. So I was like, hey, just down the street was Waco ISD Stadium from a hotel. So, hey, you know what? There's a game tonight. Let me go check it out. Waco University, pretty good record. So let's see how this goes. And yeah, it was a really good game. Belton really had a 2-0 lead, kind of like Liverpool, led early on, and then just led, and then Waco came back. University came back, tied the game up. They went to, and actually they don't have straight, ties. They actually go to PKs. So they're one of the few of those districts that have PKs. And University ended up winning the PKs, I think 4-2. So, but it was a very windy game too. I think that's when the cold front was coming in, and so it kind of changed the perception of the game much, as far as Bolton was kind of doing long balls, and they couldn't do that anymore. They had to really. I can say that University, I was really impressed by them. They're very good technical play, and they remind me a lot of one team that's in our local area is Lee. But I think Lee has a little bit more of the hit factor. Yeah, But as far as technical play, they were just as good as far as touching the ball and so forth. And you keep an eye on University. They may do some damage in the playoffs. I know they had a little setback. I think on Tuesday they lost to Chaparral from Killeen. For in PKs, but just keep an eye on that team. I think they may do some things in the playoffs.
Did anything stand out to you in terms of that match, in terms that maybe both teams had in common? Maybe it's something that's a characteristic of that district. Did anything stand out to you that just seemed like a significant characteristic, maybe?
Just with University, like I said, just their technical play. They really work the ball up and down the field. They're very patient. Belton was more of a long ball team because they have really good forward. They have one really good forward, number 10, and he was very physical. And he got a brace, so he buried a couple shots past the keeper. But I think University was playing with a backup keeper So I think their original keepers might have been out of the games because of cards or an injury. Because I noticed the shorts were a lot different. They were like, I had a different number. So,
Yeah.
but he stepped up in the PKs. He stopped a couple of them. A lot of them weren't, like I said, went over the bar because of the wind. I was surprised that they were kicking with the wind behind their back, and they were just, Belton was kind of shanking them.
Right,
I would
right.
have kicked against the wind instead to keep it low, but Belton, I know they're kind of in the middle of the pack, but they're a dangerous team because I said if you play, I think that's what happened in the first set. They were playing their style, and Waco couldn't really. And then they went down those 2 goals, but then they kind of changed some things and they started playing more of their style, the possession, and they were very patient to finally get that second goal, like near the end of the game. So, just keep an eye on that district. It's a real tricky district with that. I think it's a 12-5A. There's a couple good teams. I think even Waco High is a good team too. I think they were in the mix at their district play, and I think what was the other one? I'm trying to think. A couple of the other Colleen schools. So it's a good district. Keep an eye on them. Like I said, especially university. I think they have enough. I know they won a state championship because they showed it on the TV screen, kind of during halftime, kind of like a little tribute. But they have the talent there to do some things.
Gotcha. It's awesome. That's a good perspective. It's always good to get that. It's awesome for you that we had the opportunity for you to attend that match. And so we've got a ton on today's show. We've talked about, so we're going to do a Region 4 overview, game balls, team stickers, look ahead at a couple of key matches that we're excited about. But before we do any of that, we want to go ahead and bring in Mr. Jesse Tovar, good friend of the show, longtime friend of mine. He is also the CEO of Prep One, Mr. Jesse Tovar. Jesse, how are you, buddy?
Hey, guys. How's it going, Rafa? How are you, man? Steve, thanks for having me.
How you doing, Jesse?
How you doing, Jesse?
Man? How are you guys, man?
Doing well, thank you.
No love for the host, man. He just goes right to Rafa and Steve.
Hey,
No love.
Dude, look, I'm wearing
Yeah.
here.
Where'd you get that from, man? Where'd you get that from? Did you find
dude, I found it on eBay.
That must have been
man.
the one that dropped out of the
I
out
found
of
it
the back
on
of the truck.
eBay,
I don't even have one of those.
Awesome. Hey, that's a 1.0 version right there, Steve. That's an original.
That's an original, right? Okay.
That's an original. So awesome. So hey, Jesse, thank you for being here with us. Really appreciate having you here. And I know you're only going to be with us for a few minutes, but we kind of wanted you today. A lot of today's show is really looking at Region 4, but whenever we have the opportunity to have correspondents from different parts of the state, we jump all over it. And you're here to talk with us a little bit about kind of the district races and maybe some key players in 915 soccer out in El Paso. So tell us a little bit. What can you share with us? We're going to start with 1-4A on both sides. What can you share with us in terms of just maybe what's going on with district races, some insider information, and maybe a couple of players?
I did the mistake this morning of putting on Instagram, hey, if you want me to mention you or shout you out, dude, I got so many messages. Now I have like a laundry list of people to mention. If I'm afraid not to mention them, man. I don't know what
I know. Well, in the interest of saving time and brevity, and I know you can give the apologies later, but maybe tell us maybe one or two, but also just those district races is what we kind of want to know about.
Yeah, in 1-4A, obviously, San Elizario is the king, the king of the mountain, 2-time state champ, and they're right now they're 11-1. They just suffered their first loss to Irvin the other day, and
I saw that.
They're most likely going to be district champions. You got a hot Bowie team at 10-2 coming in second place, and going back to San Elizario real quick, Angel Science, Axel Lopez. I mean, those seniors, they have those. They're senior led, and those two guys are always getting it done for San Elizario, and Max always has them. People like Delgado at Bel Air and Reichman who just had on the show for 700. Yeah, it got the Reichman beat, and then
that's the alum.
Okay, all right,
the alum beat right there.
You know what? The thing about those guys, it doesn't matter if they're district champions. They could be the 4 seed going in, and they're going to be there in the super regionals, man. In the lead 8, every year. So, but Bowie is coming in strong with Cesar Duran. Third place,
I saw Bowie. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Bowie just drop one? I think Friday to Irvin, or Saturday, maybe Friday or Saturday to Irvin.
You know what? Irvin just beat San Elizario.
Austin. I'm sorry,
okay.
Austin.
Yes, and speaking of Austin, they're with the Riverside Rangers, Austin Panthers, and Clint Lions. They're all fighting for that 4th spot. But 1, 2, and 3 is going to be San Elizario, Bowie, and Irvin, who just upset San Lizario the other day with Hector Duarte and Omar Escobedo. Very exciting matchup there, and look for them to right now, they're already playing second half of the season, and they're all just vying for the top playoff spots.
Awesome. Now tell us. So we jump over to 5A, right?
Okay.
Two of
We're
the
doing
toughest,
boys first. Okay.
Two of the toughest districts in the state, right?
Okay.
What can you tell us? Both going back and forth, 1-5A, 2-5A on the girls' side, on the boys' side. We got some interesting races. What can you tell us?
All right, let's go with the boys in 1-5A. We have Andress. Andress is undefeated. They're 11-0, and they have the Owens brothers, Sean and Isaiah, getting it done. They also have Richard Apodaca. They're on a 16-game winning streak right now, so they're hot right now. Andress is playing the top soccer at the right time, followed by Burgess coming in at 8-3. Then it's Jefferson. Now Burgess, quick note on Burgess, they have Edwin Macias and Nicholas Morales. They're getting it done there. For Jefferson, they have the goalkeeper Jose Guerra. Let me tell you about this guy. This guy has about 60 saves in the last 8 games, and 11 PK stoppages this season.
Wow.
And that's amazing for just one goalkeeper. 11. So that's he's already getting offers left and right. Jose's a great kid. And then we round up on the 4th seed with Chapin. You do have Canutillo and El Paso also in that district. They're having a pretty tough year, but it looks like Chapin's going to round out that top 4 in 1-5A. They have Roberto Silva and Deshaun. And I hope I don't mess up the last name. It's Medingsing. I hope I didn't mess it up, but that kid's phenomenal, man.
Nice.
Going over to 2-5A, obviously it's Delgado and Reichman. Those two guys could have, it doesn't matter whether they're the 1st seed or the 4th seed. Like I just mentioned, they're going to be there in the end.
Right.
Bel Air, they arguably are the top team here in West Texas. They're, what is their record? They're 18-0-1. They're 11-0 in district, and they have a 17-game winning streak. The senior Rodolfo Gonzalez is getting it done for the Highlanders, and obviously with their coach Delgado, it's like every year they're in the mix. They just won the championship, a couple of years ago. What was it, about 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
2019. Yeah.
Okay. And the second place, you have Del Valle coming in. Bruce, there's no secret there. Tremendous goalkeeper with Jeremy Rueda. This kid's been a starter since his freshman year. And just like Jose Guerra, those two guys are dime a dozen. Now the 3rd, 4th seeds are going to either go to Isleta. Rudy Garcia, good friend of ours. The Indians, they just can't get it done in PKs recently, but they're still there. They're still in the mix. Followed by Horizon Hanks. That they're all going to be fighting for that 3rd and 4th seed in 2-5A.
Right.
Okay.
So we're seeing a common trend, right? Is across these districts is you have 3 teams fighting for really what's the last 2 spots, the last 2 playoff spots in the district, right?
Yeah, and it's so tough with the guys. They're just beating each other up. Wait till I tell you 6A when you're ready to go to 6A. We'll go to 6A. No, 6A, it's crazy, man. Like 6A, it's just Eastlake and then everybody else. Eastlake is, they're 10-1, 14-3-1 in the season. Aaron Widner, Alan Mendez. I mean, they're getting it done for the Falcons. El Dorado with Garrick Felix. And then for second place, it's going to, check this out. El Dorado, Pebble Hill, Socorro, Franklin, and Coronado are either 7-4 or 6-5. So from 6th place to 2nd place, it's 4 teams fighting for those spots. So the only clear-cut number 1 seed is going to be Eastlake coming out of that region.
Right.
Other than that, and you still have the Montwood Rams still alive at 4 and 6. Anything could happen. So it's just a matter of who gets hot at the end at the right time.
Yeah. So now when we segue over to the girls' side, right, we don't have to go across maybe all the districts, right? But maybe tell us what is maybe 1 or 2 of the key races that has you most excited, and then identify maybe a couple of key players in the 915 on the girls' side that they need to be household names.
Let's start with 1-6A. Let's start with the big schools. Obviously, you have Franklin, and Franklin's loaded. They have the 2026 freshman phenom, Jasmine Guerrero, who just got activated to the 17 under Mexican national team. Again, she's in Mexico all this week, so she'll be missing some action this week. But again, Franklin is there at the number 1 spot, tied with Coronado. They split during the season. Oh, I was going to ask you, Hector. So
Yeah.
here in West Texas, some districts play 3 times. They play each other 3 times. Some districts play each other twice. And I've asked 3 different people. They've told me 3 different things. So I'm like, I don't even know who to believe, or why is it that some districts play 2 and some districts play 3? Do you know?
Well, yeah. So this actually came up in our last episode with Bruce Reichman, right? Was essentially my understanding. Now, I'm not entirely sure what I think. Like 1-6A can't get away with that just because of how big their district is, and I think 1-4A. I think as well. I'm not sure about 1-4A, but I know 1-5A and 2-5A. They essentially had to play 3 rounds, because by the time I think, the way I understand it, at least for 2-5A, I can't entirely speak for 1-5A.
Yeah.
But by the time they kind of really realized it, it was really too, their hands were kind of tied as far as being able to schedule any additional non-district games. So the options were only play 2 rounds and then have additional buys sprinkled in there throughout, or play each and then lose out on 5 additional games.
Okay.
Or play each other 3 times. So, and Bruce, and speaking to Bruce, he obviously wasn't thrilled about it, but it was basically what was less thrilling, less appealing to him was to lose games, right? Was to lose 5 games altogether.
Yeah.
So essentially the answer to that is the districts make the call on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if it just depends on the district. Some of the ISDs allow more scheduling input from their coaches than others. So, but when you're limited on autonomy as far as scheduling goes, I think this was the simplest option for when they looked at it, I guess. So,
okay.
But like I said, I'm not sure about 1-4A playing 3 times. That's the one.
You know what? I'm not sure. I know that 2-5A is, but 1-5A isn't. And then
I could have sworn 1-5A was as well. Yeah. I could have sworn.
Was it? Oh, you know what? 1-5A, yes, it isn't. That'll be my next topic when we go to get there. Okay, so we have Franklin Coronado. Montwood, check this out. Montwood started the season 0-4. Now they're in 3rd place. They've won 6 in a row. They're 6-4. They just had their striker, Daniela Portillo, who just got offered by St. Mary's there in your neck of the woods. Actually, she was there over the weekend on her first official offer. So that was pretty neat. They have Jada Villa and Kaylin Barron, and they're getting it done there. They're hot right now. Their matchup with Franklin in a couple of days should be great. Then you have Eastwood, the Eastwood Troopers. They have Caitlin Duntley. They just have so many weapons there, and they're a very, very young team, so it's scary. So Eastwood's gonna make some noise in years to come. Then you have Americas, and the class of 2026 here locally in West Texas is phenomenal. They have another freshman sensation, Annabelle Escobar. She's doing fantastic. They have JD Gone, who just verbal commit to UTEP, or she's actually just signed to UTEP. And then you have Eastlake, and Eastlake has all kinds of weapons. They have a fantastic goalkeeper in Danica Guzman. And then you have Socorro, who's still in the mix, El Dorado and Pebble Hills in 1-6A, but it's still anybody's game. And it's going to be very interesting the next couple of weeks coming up.
Awesome. So, and as we wrap up, right, we talk about 5A. What can you tell us, whether it be 1-5A, 2-5A, and these matchups as they start getting closer to the playoffs?
Okay. Well, 2-5A.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, 2-5A, it's Del Valle Conquistador. Steph Sazo has those girls primed. They've scored more goals than anyone else in the city, but I think it was like 130 goals so far. They're blowing everybody away. They're the number 1 seed. It's everybody else in 2-5A. So shout out to Natalia Garcia. She just scored over her 100th goal this season. And Mia Serrano, dark horse. That girl is phenomenal, and you'll be seeing hearing a lot about her in the future. Going into 1-5A, very interesting. El Paso High, they started off hot. They were undefeated, beating everybody. They were competing. Lost it, in the summer. They have the O'Neill sisters. One is a sophomore, fantastic Tessa. They have the other sister who just committed over to or signed over to the NMSU. You have the Andress. They have Bella Morgas, and they have 10 seniors at Andress who have beaten El Paso High twice, but they've fallen to other
10 seniors opponents. 10 seniors on that squad.
10
is that right?
seniors on that squad.
Wow.
So they're senior heavy. Yes. Yeah. Then you have Camatillo Chapin, Jeff and Burgess finishing out that group. And in 1-4A, real briefly, you have San Elizario, Austin, and Bowie, and everybody else battling for those last playoff spots.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, we definitely appreciate having you here. And I know that's a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but still wanted to give you some time.
Thanks, man.
And I, appreciate what you're doing out there. Keep up the great work. And, I say this to the rest of the state. Some people in the state seem to get it. Others seem to not get it or not want to get it, but do not ever, you have got to take those programs out in the 915 out in El Paso. You got to take them serious because they're for real. They're for real. So
Yes, sir.
before we go, just real quick thoughts. Just I kind of like to incorporate and share. Rafa, Steve, you have anything for Jesse before we let him go?
Jesse, who do you think has the best chance to get to Georgetown, or the boys or girls?
On the boys' side, you know what? It's got to be again Bel Air, Eastlake, or Del Valle. Those teams are just playing. They're just hot right now, and they're clicking and they're beating everybody. It's them and everybody else. So it's going to be one of those three teams that may get to Georgetown. So and obviously I cannot leave out San Elizario. San Elizario in the 4A. So it seems like every district has that one team, but it's going to be between Bel Air, Del Valle in 5A, San Elizario 4A, and Eastlake in 6A.
Good stuff. Awesome.
Very cool.
Well, Jess, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for everything.
Guys, thanks for
Keep
having
up the
me,
great
man.
work, and we'll have you on again not before too long. Okay.
All right, fantastic. Have a good night, guys. Thanks.
Take care, bro. Have a good night. Bye.
Night.
All right, guys. Thoughts?
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And nothing. No additional.
I think he got plenty of. I think he got plenty of shout outs there too.
Getting some plugins there in the yeah.
He did. He did a really good job.
He did. And I knew he would. And I knew it's like he could have. The thing about Jesse is he could have, had he had an hour, he would have stretched that out over an hour, or had he had 10 minutes, he would have gotten all that same great information in 10 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah. No, and El Paso always, I've been going to the state tournament for a while. And a lot of the teams that come out of Region 1 from the El Paso area, very technical teams. So, I know there's some really quality coaches coming out of the El Paso region, and not only that, players as well. So, when you see them in the bracket, you really have to take them, serious when you're playing against those teams. Only downfall for them sometimes is the travel. I feel bad, because they're so far out there, geographically. But that being said, I think they're always a force to be reckoned with from those number 1 and 2 districts.
Yeah. No doubt the travel is an issue, but the thing that I always knew going back to when I played there, growing up there, but I had been gone for so long, and I remembered that. I realized that when I was back there coaching again, is that the schools in El Paso, regardless of sport, right, they kind of wear that road warrior mentality, right? They wear it as a badge of honor almost, right? So they're just used to it.
You're used to it, right?
It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. So awesome. So, all right. So that's going to do it again. Thank you for Jesse Tovar from Prep One for joining us and discussing all things El Paso soccer. So a lot more stuff. We're looking forward to hearing about a lot more of those names, a lot more of those players that and programs that he talked about out in the 915. So, all right, Rafa, it is your time, my man. All right. So tell us briefly while I pull this up, give everybody, maybe some people that are joining us for the first time, give us a little bit of background info on the Rafa Power Index, the RPI.
So this RPI it's a pound for pound, the best of the best in the state. So we don't separate 4A, 5A, 6A in 3 different, things, and we don't send out ballots, stuff like that. This is straight from me. I do the research. I look at the games, see the records and so forth, and then I make the decisions on that. And here we go. Here's the new version for this weekend.
Before Rafa gets started, I'm sorry, Rafa. Before Rafa gets started, I apologize in advance if I fat fingered someone's record, which I seem to do every week. I always get one thing wrong in terms of a win or a loss. So apologize in advance. I think we got it right, but just in case. So Rafa, go. Have at it, buddy.
Okay. So, not much change, especially from the top too much. I think it's kind of like the little quote I made on like I said, that you posted. The elite teams are up there. Those are the ones you expect to be up there. But there are some teams that are kind of creeping up. They're coming out of nowhere, some potential Cinderella contenders. But, there are some teams that did have some couple losses, and there's some that had some ties with some teams that they shouldn't have. So starting out with, like I said, we have number one, South Lake Curl. They're still, like I said, still the top team. They got squeaked by one game, 1-0, which was a surprise there. I was kind of debating, so does Salina overtake them because of that? So no, so I'm gonna, like I said, I still kept Salt Lake Crown number one, Salina number two, Wiley East at 3, and they're rolling. And like I said, I don't think there's a team that wants to play them in the playoffs because they're chugging along in their district play. A new number 4 from my neck of the woods, from your backyard is there at Spencer Valley. Big win over Piper. I mean, Piper it's an uppercomer, and I think had Piper won, we maybe would have seen them on the list. But Spencer Valley, right. They're, like I said, they're 17-0. I think they're going to probably be, like I said, the top team, Region 4 for 5A. Seven Lakes, they're just chugging along in that tough district, but I think they're still the best team in Houston for the girls. Little drop down with San Antonio Taft. They did have a little tie with Warren. Little setback, but still, I think they're still a top team in that area for 6A. Marcus, you can say they have the history. Great, like I said, quality wins. One especially against Flower Mound. I think probably the one team that maybe Seven Lakes needs to keep an eye on the site is Bridgeland. That could be your regional final. Like I said, they're still chugging along. Burleson Centennial kind of bounced back after that one loss. So they got some quality wins. Same thing with Duncanville.
As great as Bridgeland has been playing, right? The side Bridgeland, doesn't it seem like more people? You would think more people would be talking about them.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't want to say people are sleeping on them, but I don't know if they're getting quite the credit that maybe they should probably be getting more credit.
Yeah, if I'm Seven Lakes, I'll have my one eye open on them. Have my check my rear view because I think that game would be dynamite, and I think they'll match up well. Yeah. And that game can probably go either way. Back to 11, I have the Bernie girls. Like I said, 3, the quality wins versus Wimberley and Davenport. They're just racking up the goals there too. Another one that's kind of like the same thing with Bridgeland is Hearst Bell. No one's really talked about them. Mm-hmm. They're, like I said, that only one loss. They could surprise some teams.
Do you recall that one loss by chance?
I believe. Let me see.
It's okay. I didn't want to sidetrack because that's why I couldn't recall that one loss that they had. That's why.
Yeah, that's maybe a team that maybe they could challenge South Lake Curl, going into the playoffs because, like I said, they're in the same region. Mm-hmm. And the only loss that they had was actually against Prosper. So it's just a quality team, but that was at the beginning of the year. So I'm sure they've made some change. Like I said, they fixed some things, and like I said, they're on a 19-game winning streak. Another team for the girls is Georgetown. Yeah, like I said, they're still undefeated. Keep an eye on them. One of the 4A powers that's come in is Stephenville. I think they've kind of started taking over that district. And then a newcomer out from the Panhandles, Wolford Friendship. I mean, they're dominating District 2 6A. Keep an eye on them. They may be that team that could surprise you and have a couple upsets in that second, third round games against some of the Metroplex teams. It's 5N. I have Highland Park. They had a little one setback, but like I said, I think they'll still keep an eye also on them. A team that's moved up into the next 5 is Alamo Heights. The girls still undefeated. They've been flexing their muscle in their district play. So I think That's awesome.
Yeah, they had a big win against the second place team.
Yeah.
Jefferson, and that was a 10-0 win against Jefferson.
Yeah, that was a statement game. that was a statement game for them, and then Keller. Those 2 losses have been against Salt Lake Hurl, so no shame for that. I think they could. Like I said, one of them was a really close 1-0 game, and then Flower Mound, even though the record's kind of like it's 11-2-1, they're still a threat. And then Salado, I know they dropped out, but they had a tough loss, one of the losses, but I think against Stephenville. But yeah, they're still going to be, I think, one of the contentions for there in Region 1 for the 4A girls.
Good deal. Awesome. Steve, anything before we switch over to the boys?
Yeah, so just a couple teams that Wiley East. Are you sure you want them at 3? They just got scored on for the first time, so. No, I saw that. I saw they got scored on, so I know they had hadn't been scored on all season, so had to throw that in there. Give Rafa some guff on that, but no, just like last week, I'm still on the district. I think it's District 5 and 6A. Prosper Allen, didn't see them on there again. Ridge Point, another team that could possibly be on there in the Houston area.
They're creeping up, actually. Yeah, like I said, out of the list, there were some teams that live out, but they're within striking range of getting mentioned. So if there was like a top 25, you probably would see like Allen or Prosper.
And then the Highlanders, the Woodlands girls, are one that's usually make quite a deep run in the playoffs for state. So, and they've got a pretty solid record thus far. So that's another team that, once the playoffs get going, I think you're going to see them get, deep in the playoffs as well. Right. So those are some of the teams that, just off the top of my head, didn't see them on the list, but, I know Rafa does a good job to put this RPI together.
A little feedback from Mr. Harry Austin. Whereas my school says everyone, right? So,
he's gonna get to see it in the next poll. So,
yeah. So shout out to Harry. Harry, thank you for joining us, buddy. So apologies for the technical difficulties there, and we had a little bit of a freeze there for a second. So in case you couldn't see the rankings, that was not by design. So all right, we're gonna go ahead segue over to the boys, and I know Rafa will probably get an earful on this one again. So, right. So, all right. So maybe on this one here, Rafa, let's try a little something different. Maybe let's go through them 5 at a time, and then maybe we'll discuss those in groups of 5, and then to include then our next 5 in, and then we'll hash it out from there. So.
Well, from 1 to 5, like I said, nothing's changed. The only change that was there is Midland cracked the top 5. Which, like I said, I'm going to discuss them a little bit more later on in the show. Bel Air, like I said, we can say about Bel Air, the top team in the El Paso area, maybe even Region 1. Palestine, like I said, your 4A perennial power. Could this be the year they finally, like I said, they get into the state title? Seven Lakes, like I said, been consistent, and same thing Lake Travis. They've had some close games, but they've been able to get some quality wins in their district.
And then Palestine being the only, what was that? The only 4A there in the top 10, right? Interesting take there. Midland breaking into the top 5. And I know Lee dropped a couple of spots, and we'll get into 6 to 10 in a minute. But Steve, your thoughts on 1 through 5?
1 through 5, pretty solid. Palestine, historically they're always right there. What are they? 4A, right?
4A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty much your front runner for 4A out of the big tournaments.
Right.
Yeah. So no.
Yeah,
Pretty solid.
I think you can make the argument for, and we'll get to them in a minute when we get further down, but it's Palestine, right? Palestine and Coach Strong's Greyhounds over at Bernie. Them two probably
Mhm.
versus the field, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so, but you're gonna have some others that are gonna
Oh
they're
yeah.
gonna have something to say. Your Saletos of the world, right? Who is it? I'm trying to
Your
remember.
number 12 team.
Yeah, who knocked off Bernie? Yeah, Diamond Hill Jarvis as well, right?
Hidalgo.
So yeah, for sure, Hidalgo. That's the one I was trying to remember. So yeah, so all right, so we go 6 through 10. Rafa, go ahead.
So 6-3, and I have Irving. That's been the kind of the surprise team in the Metroplex area. They've been beating up on teams, and you keep an eye on them. They may throw a mucking wrench into the in the playoffs. They have a good shot to get to Georgetown. Frisco Lone Star, big win over Wakeland this past week. Now kind of taking control of their district. Heilbronn, like I said, that district with Marcus and Capel, they've kind of gone through that gauntlet and still undefeated. And then Lee did drop off because they had a couple ties, with Johnson, with Brandeis, but they're still in full control of, and also with Reagan too. They're still in full control of that, that district race for 28-6A. And more likely, I think, kind of look at the numbers. I think if they get by Johnson, they'll pretty much wrap up that district title. And then Allen, like I said, they're consistent still. 4 ties, but that's against quality teams.
There's Steve Zallen. There's Steve Zallen right there. Don't get him started on Allen. So so love the story behind this one. So obviously, kudos, shout out to Frisco Lone Star, who recently both their programs, right, their men's and women's programs, took down defending state champions in Wakeland. And then Lee is Lee. You know what I mean? They're just. I think I'm not gonna bet against them. So yeah, they have a couple of ties, they have a couple of draws, but we're also talking about in 28-6A, which, as we all know, is Murderers Row. So it's a mixed bag, but I think one of the great stories of the year so far, and I know Rafa hit on this early, right? So I give them a lot of kudos on this, is their number 6, Irving, right? They're shaping up to be one of the great stories of the year. Let's see what they can do as they start ramping up for the second season, for the playoffs in a couple of weeks. So, Steve, your thoughts on 6 through 10?
And just seeing all of these teams, I'm ready for that tournament to get going. I know some of these won't even face each other because they're in different classifications, but I'm ready for bracketology and for the tournament to get going. That being said, Rafa and I covered the Lee Reagan game on Friday, and kind of in our opinion, Lee did kind of dominate that game, but I would have liked to have seen them put a goal in, and finish.
I'm pretty sure Coach Rogers feels the same way.
Well, right.
Reagan did get their top goalkeeper back. He was out for most of the season, so he made some great saves too. So I mean, kudos to the Reagan goalkeeper too, because
Sean Mativi, I believe he had 9 or 10 saves in that game. From what I
he was tested, but quality. Really, I think that's what missing. I think with Reagan, like I said, they could do some damage in the playoffs with him back. So, who to say they may play again? If they play a third time around, who knows? It could be a different story.
Yeah, and the reason I say that about Lee is just because of the fact that you have to try to figure out your opponent in 80 minutes. You don't want to go extra time. You don't want to go penalty kicks, especially since they're a district that doesn't, finish their regular season matches with penalty kicks. So, you want to take care of business within those 80 minutes. And I would have, liked to have seen them kind of break the defense down, even considering that goalkeeper in that match. But they didn't. And, that being said, they didn't play for the draw either. Rafa and I kind of, we noticed they were all 80 minutes. They were putting pressure on Reagan throughout the whole match. They just couldn't figure it out. But, you're going to have those tough 1 or 2 kind of playoff games before state where you can easily get knocked off if you don't figure out the other, your opponent's defense and slide one in. Because there's some teams that know that they're going to be overpowered and they're looking for a 0-0 draw, to
Right.
take it to overtime, take it to penalty kick. So that's just something that, I would have liked to see, especially, a little bit biased, with being San Antonio, and supporting Region 4. But that's just something that, I would have liked to have seen. But that being said, Reagan did play a good game as well and gave them all they had and earned the draw.
Yeah. No love for Allen, huh? All that bickering about Allen, and you don't even acknowledge him. I see how that is. I see. Man.
Well, I'm trying to, get more love for the Prosper and Allen girls on the girls' side.
Yeah.
No, but the boys are putting together a remarkable season as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying, I mean, this top 10.
I had to do a double take. I had to do a double take on the number of. I didn't realize they had 4 draws. Right. I think that's the only team I've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rafa. It's the only team we've seen in any of the RPIs that have had that many draws, right?
Yeah, I did see one team. I think Capel had 7 draws for the boys.
Are you serious?
Yes, and I was just like,
7 draws.
I saw Max Prep. Yeah, Max Preps had them high, ranked real high. It's like, it was 7 draws.
I had them at 6, but you're probably right. They could probably easily be like a 7. I know Stevens here in San Antonio had something like 5 already.
Oh yeah, Stevens, they're like I think second. I think towards the bottom of their district, but they had 6. Yeah, Harry had mentioned they had 6 ties, or like 5 or 6 ties in their district play. So,
Region 4 6A, Region 4 Class 6A score update final in men's soccer. Brandeis 2 and Churchill 1. So local San Antonio area just went final.
Close.
So, yeah.
Close, man.
I mean, like if you look at Allen, the ties they had, they've tied Wakeland, they've tied Prosper, they've tied McKinney Boyd. So, and Stony and Rock Stony Point. So those are some quality teams as far as their ties, so it's no shame. And then those could have gone easily be losses too as well.
Correct.
Yeah, this is a solid top 10 and really even, top 20. This I'm ready for the tournament to get going.
Right,
we still got games to play out though. We got to figure out the seeding and there's a couple districts where 3 through 6 is kind of, they got to say so as well.
And I can tell you right now, the way this is starting to shape up, there are going to be some number 4s that are not traditional number 4s, and they're going to be the type that nobody wants to play, right? They're like, great, we just won a district title, and we get insert quality, perennial power program that is sitting there at a 4, right? Or maybe even a 3. So yeah, you're going to see that in all the classifications this year. So it's going to make for some drama for sure. So, all right, Rafa, 11 through 15.
So we have Bernie at 11. They're creeping on, knocking into the top 10. They've just been, destroying everybody there in their district. I think they're the ones that can challenge Palestine. To me, I still think Bernie's going to be the favorite. I think they're going to do the 3-peat. Sorry about Diamond Hill Jarvis about the 3-peat. But Diamond Hill, I think they could make it, to the Final Four. Maybe they'll match up with Bernie in the semifinals or in the final. That'd be great, or with Palestine. So 2 quality 4A teams there, back to back. Pasadena Adobe, another great team for Houston area. It's under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could do some damage in the playoffs. Kilgore, another 4A, maybe the one team that could challenge Palestine out in East Texas. I think that could be a really good regional final there. And then rounding up, have the Woodlands 15-2-1. They've kind of bounced back some little early couple losses, but they've been rolling there in their district play.
Yeah. I don't think nothing too crazy on my end to go over in this group here. I mean, you have Coach Strong, and it's kind of hey, they're the champs until someone officially knocks them off, right? So yeah, and he's got Coach Strong again. He's got that super mustache going, so they're going to be hard to beat in the playoffs, man. So I don't know. So. Now, if he can get all the boys to grow that kind of mustache down the playoffs, that'll be fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, thoughts on
they all go blonde. They go all blonde, I think, for the playoffs. I believe.
Yeah, I tell them be careful with that. I did that one year, and then look what happened to my hair. So, so 11 through 15. Thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, so it doesn't really taper off that much. I mean, you got, two-time defending champion at 11. You've got Diamond Hill Jarvis, who's there, consistently at state recently, as of late. Pasadena Dobie, another team that's just had a really, really solid season. And, like I said, it hasn't really tapered off yet. Like, these are solid quality programs that, are, have their say so in what's going on with Texas high school soccer on the boys' side. So.
Yeah. And our next 5 in, Rafa.
So the next 5 in, and there were some changes, and now we have some teams that flew under the radar and really now kind of shown what they have. And these are your kind of your dark horses here, like Houston Wisdom, 17-0. I think there might be one of the few Houston area teams that are still undefeated. So keep an eye on them. El Paso Andrés, like Jesse mentioned.
Yeah, Jesse just hit on it. What did he say? 17-game winning streak, I think is what he said.
They could be the second best team in El Paso for the boys, I mean, or at least top 3 with them in the East Lake and Bel Air.
They're in that same classification. They're in that same classification with Bel Air.
So they could see each other in a quarterfinal. So that's a possibility.
Yeah.
3, I have San Antonio Southwest. They've been very consistent. I think they've taken over as far as I know. Alamo Heights recently had a loss, a bad loss with Edison. But like I said, the Edison team, really good team. So Southwest is kind of taking over that. Okay, we're probably the top, 5A team in the area. And they, like I said, the only losses against Los Fresnos, which is one of the best Valley teams for 6A. Tyler Legacy, they're still chugging along. Like I said, had a couple ties, but they're still one of the better teams out in East Texas. And then another surprise from the Panhandle. Keep an eye on these guys. Amarillo Palo Duro, 15-1. They've been blowing out some teams. Like they blew out Amarillo High and Tascosa. Those are some good teams that they've been knocking off in their district play. So keep an eye on them. They could be the dark horse going to deep into the get into the regional finals.
Yeah, you're definitely. I'm not going to pretend to have a ton of information on Houston Wisdom. So that's one we're going to have to look at a little closer. But the rest of this group, 2, 3, and 4, for sure, very familiar with them, and particularly El Paso Andrés. It's good to see them going on a run like this. And so both of their teams, their girls team is very hot as well right now. And then Southwest has kind of been that model of consistency right in their district. So. But yeah, Amarillo Palo Duro's that's an interesting one. That's a fun one. Steve?
Yeah, this is the only 5 that I kind of would have a question on. Just some of the names are not, I'm not too familiar with some of these, but there was some other teams that I would have liked to have seen and get a little bit recognition that I'll bring up. Austin Bowie's having a really good season. Up north of us and on the boys' side. So that's one that I would have liked to seen in this, top 5 or next 5 in, I should say. And then another one in the DFW area is Frisco Heritage that is also having a good season in 5A that I would have liked to, possibly seen here in the next 5 in as well. And, San Antonio Southwest, historically, they do really well regular season, but it always comes around playoff time that they've, always have a tough time with the Valley teams, around tournament time, second, third round. Now, probably third round.
Last year was Georgetown that knocked them off.
Okay, yeah.
So what the issue with them is their schedule. They're not I know they had some close calls in a couple of district games, but they haven't really been challenged. I think the issue is, and that's what I talked to with Harry, you have to have a very strong non-district schedule. And I would like to see them play, maybe Northeast Elite Showcase or Hills or teams that you're gonna see in. I know they did go to the Georgetown tournament, but some of the teams they played were not at the caliber that you see that go to Georgetown, consistently. That's why they need to start scheduling. And I think if they schedule those teams, I think they can take the next step and challenge for for that regional title to get into Georgetown.
Right.
Yeah, kind of the same discussion we had with, and we'll get into Region 4 a little bit later, but District 27, 5A with Alamo Heights getting put in there with SAISD, and the toughness of that schedule. On the girls' side, we spoke about how, they just knocked off the second place team, 10-0.
Mm-hmm.
And so that being said, it looks like they're, still, playing, everyone's like going all in, in their matches. And even though the caliber might not be there of their opponent each and every match, they're still showing their dominance in that district. And like Rafa said, that was a statement game, for everyone, not just their opponents in their district, but going into, coming into March, they're making those statements by the results that they're putting out. So yeah, I mean, with Southwest, they've had some close matches though as well.
And then with Legacy,
mm-hmm.
the one thing about, like you mentioned about like Austin Bowie, they're like right there. I'll mention a couple other teams also we're considering. Lubbock Monterey, they're 15-0-3. We have Brownsville Porter at 18-2-1. For 4A, San Angelo Lakeview boys, they're actually 15-0-1. Out in Houston, Aldine MacArthur 15-0-2. So there's other teams that are kind of right there on the brink. Fort Worth ODY at 16-1-2. So
there's
I just wanted to mention them.
There's one out of the capital city that I will mention in a little bit in our team sticker awards that I feel is probably knocking on the door in this next 5N. If not, maybe you can definitely make the argument that they should be in the next 5N for sure. So, all right, that's going to do it for the latest RPI. We may get Rafa. We may get maybe one more RPI right before the playoffs.
Yeah, we're looking to see who tops it out. Who tops out the final rankings for the regular season.
All right. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
College Promoters USA, founded and located in San Antonio, operates as the only family-owned college recruiting company in Texas that brings a truly professional, local, and face-to-face approach to area high school student athletes and their families. As the lead sponsor and proud supporter of the 50/50 podcast, alongside Coach Hector Cano, College Promoters is proud to be elevating its support for the college soccer recruiting process more than any other service in the country. If your son or daughter is serious about competing in college soccer, call College Promoters USA directly at 210-494-6363 or visit collegepromotersusa.com anytime. College Promoters USA, the best investment a parent can make in their high school student athlete.
And we are back with episode 6 of Inside Texas High School Soccer. I am Hector Cano, joined by fellow co-hosts Rafa Castorena and Steve Sanchez. All right, we are going to segue over now to our Region 4. So our final region, we've been doing previews. At this point, we're calling the Region 4, we're calling it an overview because it's too late for a preview. But in case you're joining us for the first time, what we do on these is we do not go through every single district team by team, but what we're going to do is highlight a couple of districts, highlight a couple of teams that can serve as front runners, then maybe also some dark horses, and maybe even some Cinderellas that could make some noise in the playoffs. So, all right, let me go ahead and bring that up really quick. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to start off with the girls' side 4A. See, let me try to zoom in here a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see that to a certain extent. All right, so that's a little too much. All right, so Region 4, Class 4A. Thoughts on this one, gentlemen?
So not too many teams on my end to kind of put out there, but the ones I think the front runner right now is in the 26 district, which is Bernie, as well as Wimberley. There, they've been putting a good season together for within that district, but historically we don't have that many schools that are repeating year after year that I kind of noticed.
Yeah, one team that I would like to highlight to say just continue to keep your eyes on them is, and they've been solid throughout the year, not non-district and district, is in 25 4A. You have Burnett, so the Burnett Bulldogs. They will, given the right matchup, I think they're going to present some problems for somebody. It's just going to be a matter of where they fall in line. And what the matchup will be, but they will see. Obviously, they'll see somebody from 26 4A. Rafa?
Yeah, I think they're probably the one team that from that probably could win a playoff game, because, like I said, you look at District 20, 26. It's all been Bernie, but then you have Wimberley and Davenport, and I think those three teams will advance. So Burnett, winning the district title, I think they should have no problem, beating maybe Canyon Lake or Fredericksburg. If you look at the other, as far as 4A girls, who can contend with those three, I guess besides Burnett, maybe Corpus Christi Callan, they had that run 2 years ago, and keep an eye on them. They did beat Bernie a few years ago, so
they had another deep run. They had another deep run last year as well.
But
Bernie did. Right now, the district leader for 29 is London, and then you've got Jones second place, and you got Cal Allen right there at third. So London could be another team that could make a run later on, and they're on the right side of the bracket as well, against the other the Valley districts.
Yeah, you look for 26 4A will definitely do some damage in the opening rounds, in your by district and area rounds for sure. And then the other on that side of the bracket, maybe the only other one that kind of jumps out to me that could play a factor given the right matchup could potentially be Pleasanton up in 28 4A as well.
Yeah, and one also Uvalde too, because like I said, they had a run last year. They had a really good record, but they lost to Bernie. It was a close. I actually went to that game, live streamed that game. It was a close game into the half until Bernie finally kind of pulled away. Another one to mention, keep an eye on maybe Lavernia. I know that's some disappointing games lately, but maybe they'll fix that. And then as far as any of the Valley teams, I just don't see any Valley teams, maybe contending against some of the especially the top three for 26.
Yeah, these 31 and 32 teams last year, granted the districts look different, but last year these ideas of the world, they did more damage on the boys' side, if I recall, than on the girls' side. So I don't know.
And no disrespect to District 30, 31, and 32. We've never had a Region 4 winner from on the girls' side from any of those districts. So I don't mean any kind of disrespect. It's just historically speaking, we just
it's all task
teams. Yeah. So
yeah. All right, switching over to the boys' side. So same thing, same districts. Thoughts?
Bernie Hidalgo.
I think it's just Bernie. I don't think Hidalgo. I don't think Hidalgo has enough to beat Bernie. Nope. The last 2 years, Bernie's owned them, and to me, Bernie as a higher level of play as far as technical wise compared to the other teams. And now you have some teams that may kind of do some, may kind of could catch you off guard. Two of the teams I've been keep an eye on is Memorial and Kennedy. They've that drop down from 5A to 4A has really helped them. I thought Lavernia was going to run away that district. they're having a hard time with those those other two schools for that district. So those three teams that maybe could do some of that. I think also Corpus Christi, London, the boys, I think they've been doing well too. It's another team that could be a lot, but Progreso, like I said, they've won a state before. They got a good team, but I think it's just Bernie and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty. That I agree with that. I mean, I do think Hidalgo historically they're usually there and make a run, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I think out of the other district that you had mentioned, Beeville Jones is actually in District 29. They're the front runner right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're leading that district. So, but I think Bernie has higher aspirations than just Region 4.
Correct.
They just are, they're just a machine right now. Yeah.
Well, look what they did last year. They were down a couple games, like a goal, and then they end up blowing out the teams like 6-7-1. I mean, they're like Coach kind of mentioned about, we've been there, done that. That's the attitude they have. Is like, until you beat us, we're just going to keep rolling along.
Right.
Yeah, and they know what it takes. They know what it takes to not just win the region, but take state. So, they're the front runners for sure.
There's something to be said. I hit on it every year, and you'll hear me once we get into the playoff editions of Inside Texas High School Soccer. Is once we get into that second season as we bill it, the playoffs. This is where styles make matchups, but also this is where coaching starts to show. Right, this is where coaching matters and the adjustments that you can make, especially when you start getting in a couple of rounds deep into the playoffs. Right, so. All right, we're going to switch over. That's going to do it for 4A. We'll move over now. So switching over to 5A, starting with the girls again. Let me see here. See if I can hit on all of them here. Almost all. All right. So region 4, girls 5A. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, and it kind of just comes down to what I think is just 20 District 25 through 27, and really only team out of District 27 is going to be Alamo Heights that can kind of really make that deep run. They're just on a roll right now, but Smithson Valley in 26, Piper in 26, and Cedar Park in 25 probably have something to say about that. That's kind of where I see this region going. Those are the teams that you're going to really have to, give 110% to kind of get through those teams. So you don't want to see them on your side of the bracket. And if you do, you got to play pretty flawless to, knock those teams off.
And you cannot ignore these. You cannot ignore these squads out of 32, out of District 32.
I think we're 31. I think McAllen. You do not want to, like I said, McAllen had that run.
Yeah.
They have some talent, and they can probably upset one of the San Antonio Austin teams. Another team to keep an eye on is that Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial, and them and Gregory Portland. They've made some runs, some deep runs last couple of years too.
Mm-hmm.
For District 28, can Southwest girls take that next step? Can they beat one of those District 26 teams or 25 teams? I know with 25 we have Cedar Park, but also keep an eye on Liberty Hill and Leander. They have some quality players too. So it's a mixed bag. It's like you mentioned, Coach, it's going to be about maybe matchups. But to me, my favorite is going to be Bernie Champion because they're rolling right now.
Yeah, you say Bernie Champion?
Oh, not Bernie Champion. Excuse me, Smithson Valley. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, 26 5A, regardless, I think is going to make they're going to do some damage in the first couple of rounds, for sure. So, but yeah, Smithson Valley's looking great. I mean, had big win over Piper right in their rivalry, and Champion, right? Bernie Champion is one of those that we talked about. Is could you imagine if somehow they end up the 4 seed, right? I would not want to be that 1 seed out of 25 5A having to play Bernie Champion as a 4 seed, right?
Which is right now, I think it's Cedar Park right now is the
right.
number 1 seed if we were to end today. So, but that, I mean, that's 26.
And that's not saying they're going to end up the 4A, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a matter of, I think they're getting healthy. They have a lot of experience, and then they have a Coach Carol Walters, who's a very seasoned coach, a very experienced coach who knows how to navigate. I mean, you look at, they had the shocker of the year last year versus Dripping Springs, right? She knows how to get her teams up for big games. So
region champion, defending region champ.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else before we switch over to the boys? Nothing. Okay, so we switch over. So on the boys' side, initial thoughts, Steve.
Sure. So this one's a lot wider range. You've got District 26. You've got Piper. You've got Bernie Champion, Smithson Valley. 27, it's mainly going to be Alamo Heights again, just like the girls' side. 28, you've got Southwest that they like we spoke about them earlier in Rafa's RPI that makes that deep run. Juarez Lincoln in District 30 is another team that is there annually. You got Valley View in 31, and you got the Brownsvilles in 32, with Porter currently leading that district and Lopez right behind him. So those are kind of my front runners for that I see on the 5A boys side for Region 4.
Rafa?
I think this is wide open. I don't think there's a true dominant team. I think Porter probably has the edge right now because of what they've been doing. But you also have contenders, like as I mentioned, like Southwest. Can Southwest step up and make a deep run and knock off? They just said, like on their side, they're on this side. Can they knock off a team from 26 or 25, which they didn't do last year? But you also have a tough, like Steve went to see, was that tough Cedar Park team that played really tough earlier in the year. So they could be one. Then you have, like I said, 26. Like the Piper boys is the surprise of the year. They've been consistent, and that's one team you don't want to play. I think they're peaking at the right time. If you look at 26, District 29, I think right now, I think Victoria West is up, but apparently Flower Bluff is one of the teams that also gives trouble. And then Juarez Lincoln moving down from 6A to 5A. Is that going to help them make a deep run, into the regional tournament? But this, like I said, they still have to face up, can they knock off one of the Brownsville teams, or even, in the McAllen area, you have to worry about, like I said, Valley View, even PSJ Southwest has a good squad, and even the Sherryland too. So it's, no clear favorite, but I think for me right now, the edge I'm going to give is Brownsville Porter right now.
You look at 27. You look at 27 and 28 5A, and one of the things that I'm looking at is we could be potentially looking at a showdown in the regionals, right, between Southwest and Alamo Heights, right? What could that matchup potentially look like down the road, right? I think that would be a match that I would love to see, right? If Southwest can get some, get that confidence in the playoffs and be peaking at the right time, I think that could be maybe the first major hurdle for Alamo Heights. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Once you start kind of filling out your bracket and pin this team against that team, that would be a great matchup to see if they get through. The other thing you got to remember is there's no more Dripping Springs in here, and there's no more Georgetown in here. So those are teams that are typically right there at the end, but they're not in there anymore. So like Rafa and I said, this is very, very open for 5A boys. Another team I just forgot about is Rouse, from Leander. That's another team that, could possibly. I know they got to the region quarterfinals last year, so that's another team that got their experience last year. So we'll see what they can do come playoff time. But I know that they're the front runner in District 25 currently.
So a little teaser here. There is a team in 25-5A on the boys side right now that will, when we get the team sticker awards, they are my team sticker award team, and definitely not getting the respect that I think that they deserve out of 25-5A. So we'll come back to that one later. So all right. That's going to do it for 25-5A, or I mean for 5A, I should say.
Boys.
We move over to 6A, Region 4, 6A. Should be able to get all of them here. All right. So 6A, we could probably spend 30 minutes just talking about this one. So thoughts, gentlemen. Let's go with
boys or girls?
Oh, girls. Sorry, girls. Yeah,
girls. Well, the last few years for the girls for 6A has been dominated by District 26. It's been the Austin teams, and finally San Antonio kind of broke through to get into the regionals, but like I said, Westlake ended up winning the region and going into state. So is this going to be that case again this year? We did go see, like I said, me and Steve did go see the Reagan girls, and they put on a show. They did. I think they're starting to play a lot better. I know they lost one of the key players to A&M, but they're still. I think they're still a very dangerous team. Dangerous team. Yeah, Taylor Jernigan, and then like I said, you also have Johnson, another dangerous team. They knocked off probably the biggest upset was knocking off Lake Travis, in that second round game. So, that's another quality team. Lee, that was another one that we thought, they won tonight. So hopefully that'll kickstart things. But
off the schneid,
but usually, like I said, the tension is going right now is the Austin teams like your Vandergriffs, your Round Rock High, your Lake Travis, and your Westlake. But then now you have the kind of like the boogeyman out from moving up from 5A to 6A is the Dripping Spring girls. You do not want to play them, in the playoffs because they give you matchup problems. And
who was that again? Who are you talking about?
The Dripping Springs.
Oh. So that's who you're putting the Kukui tag on?
Yeah, they're the Kukui for Region 4.
Okay. All right.
for that area.
I wanted to make sure I heard that right. Okay.
Yeah. So shout out to the Dripping Springs booster to them.
Feel free to use that as your official hashtag there, Dripping Springs.
Well, and if you look at the Twitter, my Twitter feed, when I took a selfie with Rafa at Friday's match, he was sporting the Kukui beanie, the Dripping Springs beanie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did see that. Yeah, I did see that. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
But then you have other teams. Shout out to them.
The boosters out at Dripping Springs. They're awesome.
But then you have other teams on the other side. The TAF, what a great season they've done. I mean, that one setback with Warren. Hey, they Warren parked the bus. What can you do? But then you have also quality teams like O'Connor. Brennan's still a dangerous team, so I think honestly, if in the playoffs, they're going to sweep District 30. District 29 is going to sweep District 30. I believe they'll take care of business. But then in the Valley, I just don't see anybody. Maybe I think the only one maybe because I did get to see them play was Los Fresnos because they had a 0-0 tie with Steele. Mm-hmm. So Los Fresnos could throw a monkey wrench and maybe sneak into the regionals from the Valley. So. But I think to me, bottom line, it's Austin versus San Antonio. Right now, Austin's had the last laugh the last couple of years.
Yeah, Austin's had that upper hand as of late, but I can totally see San Antonio possibly taking that back this year, just due to the teams that we've seen play around town. But going back to Austin, you've got Round Rock, Vandergrift. Round Rock currently leading that District 25. In District 26, Lake Travis is the number 1 seed currently. You got Dripping Springs. Kukui is number 2 in that district. I don't see anyone else. Oh, Westlake. Yeah, Westlake you got there, that can probably make a run as well. Defending region champ. But and then 27, it's more than likely just going to be New Braunfels that makes a run. And then you've got some powers in 28 with Reagan and Johnson that they got a big say so of what's going to be going on. But that's an extremely tough matchup with District 29, because whoever gets third in District 29, because it looks like Taft's number one. I think they've pretty much
clinched it.
One seed, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even with that draw against Warren, but Brennan and O'Connor, you don't want to fall into the 3 seed. You want that 2nd seed, because you do not want to play, the Johnson or Reagan. That's going to be an extremely difficult by district match, first round match.
They play District 30, so they'll be playing against the Laredo teams.
You're right. You're right.
District.
Right.
To me, District 30 is not as far as level of play.
29 will sweep.
They do not compare to 29. 29 is gonna sweep 30. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah. You're right. So, but that being said, Taft, Brennan, O'Connor, I mean, those are all quality teams. I've seen all 3 of those teams play, and I've even seen Warren play, and all of those teams are quality. So that's why, going back to the whole San Antonio Austin thing, I think San Antonio has a big say so in who's going to be coming out of Region 4.
Yeah, this could be the year. This could be the year where San Antonio kind of takes that back.
And the thing with Taft is they're very young, so they'll be back next year.
Yeah, they're very physical. You've seen them mature into the team that they are now going back to last year. Duff and I were talking about that, but yeah, I think the best thing that probably 27 and 28 6A have going for them here is that, excuse me, 25 and 26 6A, they're going to beat up on each other. That's probably from that perspective, because you're talking about those 4 playoff teams coming out of 25 6A and 26 6A are going to be solid. They're going to be solid, right? They're going to be solid. So it's just going to be again, it'll come down to matchups and who's staying healthy, number of factors, obviously. But I think in this district or in this region, and you can make the argument on the boys' side too, is that in this region, you kind of have every district has a distinct personality, if you will, with the exception of 27 6A. 27 6A seems to be that tricky district, right? That is hard to figure out. You don't quite know what you're going to ultimately get out of it, and there's no telling who will flat out win it, and then who can maybe do some damage, and maybe do an upset or 2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think New Braunfels is pretty much the front runner for that district. Last I checked, they were 5-0-1, and Steele was in second at 3-1-2. So it looks like, I know they've got 4 or 5 more matches left, but it looks like New Braunfels is kind of going to take that district. But while you're looking at this, the whole 25 through 28 is very weighted as far as the top teams. And then once you look on the the opposite side, 29 through 32, it's mainly going to be the north side
29
teams. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they've once again, no disrespect, but historically we have not seen a lot of Rio Grande RGV teams come out of our region on the girls' side. Boys, yes.
Well, the last team was the McAllen girls, and that was the last time.
Right. All right, so let's switch over to the boys' side. So again, same thing, Region 4, and let's have at it. Steve, start us off.
Yeah, so once again, kind of just so many good teams in this region, and it's a little bit different from the girls because it's a little bit more balanced. In District 25, you got Round Rock and you've got Westwood that are putting some solid team seasons together. And then you've got your defending state champ in 26, Lake Travis, and quietly putting a almost a perfect season together, just very quietly doing that though. No one's really, I mean, everyone's kind of got them on their radar, but until you see them, they're, just, trucking away, putting all those wins together. But the other team that I wanted to mention was Bowie, which I did mention actually earlier, is having a really good season. So District 26, watch out for those two teams. 27 is that tricky one again. Same thing on the boys side. You don't really know what's going to be coming out of there. I think Clemens and New Braunfels are 1 and 2 in that district. And coming out of District 28, you've got Lee, you got Reagan, you got Johnson, you got Branda. I mean, all 4 of those teams are solid teams and can make deep runs. So, whoever is facing them in District 27, that's going to be a tough task against those Northeast schools in District 28. Harlan and O'Connor in District 29, and Warren's even putting a solid season together here in Region 4 as well. Then I'm going to skip Rafa's district 30, and I'm going to jump over to 32. I'll let Rafa cover that. But Brownsville Rivera is got another quality season going on with a pretty remarkable record going on down there in the valley. And Los Fresnos as well is another one to be reckoned with. That's all I got, which is a lot. I mean, that's that's how wide the region is from the boys' side in 6A.
This is so much fun on the boys' side for sure.
It is.
So elite Rafa, as Harry put it earlier. What do you got, buddy?
I mean, what can you say about Lake Travis? I mean, they're chugging along. Everybody thought they'd probably take a hit because of, I know they took a hit because of graduation, and maybe they maybe lose a step a little bit, but they've been consistent. And it's like the old saying goes: to be the man, you got to beat the man, and that's in the situation. Yeah, woo, yeah. So they gotta. I think they'll do. I think they'll go in deep. If they match up with Lee, we'll see what happens there. Maybe the third part of the trilogy there.
Yeah.
I think those are the two teams. I think they're the cream of the crop as far as the Region 4. But like I said, other quality teams like Vandergrift, Ron Rock, the Westlake boys. There's disappointment this year. They've kind of struggled a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We still have Dripping Springs, still a dangerous team, even though they moved up, got quality players. But then you have the teams from District 28 that could do some damage, especially like I said, not only Lee, but you also have Johnson, Reagan, and Brandeis, and they could cause some problems with some of those Austin teams. For District 29, it's all Harlan. I think good year from Warren. Warren could maybe win a couple games, and maybe sneak into a quarterfinal.
Mm-hmm.
District 30, I think the top team there is Alexander. I know they tied recently against my old team. But I think Alexander's had their number, especially they've eliminated in the last 2 years in the regional quarterfinal. It's just like I said, the coaching there, Alexander, a lot better, like as far as more prepared, the last, with those 2 years that they faced each other. And then your Valley teams, Rivera, I mean, that could be that dark horse and they may give some matchup problems with some, maybe if they do sneak into that regional tournament. Their players are quality, and they're very, they work hard. Like I said, in the past, you've seen some Valley teams upset some of these teams from San Antonio or Austin, and they've gone on to win state. Another team to keep out is also Los Fresnos too. I think they got, like I said, they actually the one team that beat Southwest. And that was at Southwest. So, keep an eye on them. I think they could also surprise a couple of teams. But right now, that kind of neck and neck right now, it's going to be I think it's Lake Travis and Lee as far as supremacy for Region 4.
Yeah, and you talked about upsets, and I think, make no mistake about it, I think if I had to put my money on in Region 4, a classification on one side of the house, on the boys' side, if there's a classification where you could stand to see a lot of a lot of upsets that create chaos in maybe your by district or area rounds, I think it would be this one. I think it would be 6A. Just by virtue of some of the matchups that we're going to see. I mean, you can make the argument, excuse me, you can make the argument for on the girls' side as well in 6A, but I think this is going to be an interesting one, just because you have, again, so much of it is the styles make for the matchups, and you have some very well experienced coaches here sprinkled out across a lot of these programs that they know how to manage the playoffs.
Yeah, and going back to Brownsville Rivera, they're 16-4-2 so far, and one of those losses was to Bernie earlier this year, 1-0 loss. So, those Rio Grande RGV Valley teams, they're always so disciplined whenever you see them play, and it starts with their warm up. When they're warming up, they do their exercise in unison, and they attack together, they defend together, they play with a lot of corazon, when they're playing. So one of my favorite teams was the Rivera team that won state. I forgot which year.
Yeah, it was a 35-0 team. I think that was probably the best team I've ever seen play. I mean, they were technically, maybe compared to maybe like the Dripping Stream Girls that won state the year before, or even the South Lake Curl teams, right, for the girls.
Yeah.
This, for the boys' side, that team was probably one of the best of all time, because they looked like a professional team touching the ball, and they shredded that region tournament. They shredded everybody, and then they just walked in and took care of business in the state.
Well, we could have another one of those this year on the girls' side.
Yeah.
Region 1.
Just potential historic team, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, that is going to do it for our Region 4 overview. So a special thanks to Rafa and Steve as well. A lot of great potential matchups. I think when we start seeing this, now that we've seen it kind of all through all 4 regions, and we know what the district races are kind of starting to look like as well, it just kind of, I don't know, kind of has me salivating. I'm like Steve, just ready for the playoffs, right? Ready for the playoffs. So Awesome. All right, so that's going to do it again for our Region 4 overview. So we can go ahead, we can transition over to our game balls and team sticker awards. But before we do that, let me tell you about our good friends at Gipper. So as you know, we've been partnered with Gipper for about 7 months now, going on 8 months. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 2,500 coaches and ADs and use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part, anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. The other best part is, if just for being a 50/50 podcast listener, supporter, if you're interested, automatically we're going to be able to save you 10% off any first time Gipper purchase. So any annual package, all you got to do is go to gipper.com/partner/5050. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more, and you can save up to 10% off any first time Gipper purchase. So please be sure to check them out. All right, gentlemen, game balls. So I'll go ahead and I'll lead us off on this one. So what we do here, so it's kind of a newer wrinkle that we've added to Inside Texas High School Soccer, is acknowledging different players across the state. Sometimes we can do or coaches as well. We can do one on each side of the house, on the men's side, on the women's side, coaches as well. Or if we just see something that really captures us, maybe 2 Dynamite players or 2 Dynamite coaches on one particular side, whatever. No rules. We make the rules here. So, but what the whole point is trying to acknowledge and showcase some of our student athletes, some of our coaches that are getting it done. So, all right. So my first game ball on the girls' side of the house is going to be to the junior forward out of San Antonio Taft, Leila Rangel, she is the leader, right? One of the leaders, I should say, for an undefeated 29-6A first place San Antonio Taft, who is currently undefeated 14-0-1. Had a very, very, very big match versus O'Connor last Tuesday, and in which they won 5-2. Correct? You check me on that. I think it was 5-2, but she had 4 goals, and big shout out to her as well. She was also selected as the San Antonio Express News Player of the Week just today as well, earlier today. So big shout out to her, along with all her teammates over at San Antonio Taft. So, and then on the boys' side, on the men's soccer side, going to stay in the San Antonio area for this one, only because he's been having some dynamite performances, honestly, for the length of the season. He is 2023 senior Jesus Blanco, the San Antonio League goalkeeper, who's allowed all of a whopping 3 goals the entire season for an undefeated San Antonio League squad. He is, Rafa, check me on this. I believe he's a Texas A&M San Antonio commit, correct?
Yes.
And had a great, phenomenal dual matchup that you all got to see, that the game that you all covered, along with Sean Mativi of Reagan, in which the goalkeepers were the standouts, right, in a 0-0 draw. So, but yeah, those are my 2 there. Again, junior Leila Rangel of San Antonio Taft and senior Jesus Blanco of San Antonio Lee. So, Rafa?
So my game ball first for the girls goes to Ava Bailey. She's from Kempner High School in the Houston area. Great week. She actually set a season high with 4 goals. She had 2 assists and an 8-0 shutout on Fort Bend Marshall to start, for their district play. And then for the boys' side, a dear friend of mine I've known for a long time, Coach Arturo Trevino from Fullshare High School, also in the Houston area. He just racked up his 250th win. So congratulations on him.
All right. Congrats. And tell us the story again, Coach. What's the connection there?
Excuse me. Funny that you mentioned that. He was introduced. I got introduced to him when he coached at Martin High School with an ex-girlfriend of mine that was a teacher there at Martin. And actually, the funny thing is, I bumped into her today at one of the college fairs. She's now a counselor. She's a counselor at United South. So shout out.
I'm not giving you bad juju there, am I? Sorry if I am. Sorry.
No, everything's cool there. But that's how we met, and he did a great job in Martin, and then he went up to Katy Mate Creek, which that program was like in the dumps, and he really turned that program around, made them to a contender. That Katy district, how tough that district is. He got into the playoffs, and then great opportunity to open up start the full shear program, and he's done great ever since. So congratulations to him on getting his 250th win.
Awesome. Steve?
Very cool. So going back to yours, Hector, Leila Rangel.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually, I haven't coached her, but she used to play at Dallas with Dallas Texans back in the day. A lot of those Taft girls, like her, Jordan, Alexia, Bryn, they all grew up playing Dallas Texans, and they were coached by a guy named Steve Abbott, Coach Abbott. So him and I coached together, and unfortunately, Steve passed away in early January of 2018. So I recognize a lot of those girls that were on Steve Abbott's team, and Steve was just a remarkable coach, unbelievable, and even better person. So it was, I still remember those phone calls whenever I'd call him or he'd call me, "Hey, Coach Steve, it's Coach Steve." So I miss him a lot. And, a lot of those girls are putting a smile on Coach Steve's face.
Mm-hmm.
Not this Coach Steve and the other coach, especially the other Coach Steve. Yeah. So,
segueing in that, so I got to mention it since you mentioned it, right? I'm sure Coach Steve or the Steves would be proud of the fact. Big shout out to 2024 out of San Antonio Taft as well, Jordan Matthews, who you just mentioned, who announced her verbal commitment to UTRGV earlier today. So big shout out to her. So sorry about that, Steve. Go ahead.
That's really good to see. And she comes from great parents with Nikki and Jonathan. So friends with them as well. So congratulations to Layla, the Taft girls. Also, I gotta say hello to the Taft coach as well, who actually his daughter plays for Premier, and he stopped by our field last Wednesday and said, Coach Steve, from the 50-50. And I said, yeah. So, I got a chance to spend some time with Scott Davis as well last week. So really, really good guy. And, but yeah, I just wanted to add that to as far as the Layla Rangel and Taft. But just have to say that about Coach Steve. He's missed all over, the far west side of northwest side of San Antonio by many. And he's definitely made an impact on the sport for San Antonio, especially on the girls side.
Awesome.
So that being said, my game ball is going to a player from a school that is kind of more along the lines of a football school, Louisville Farmers. You don't hear too much about them on the other football side, the soccer side, but a player by the name of DJ Kulai. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I didn't, I apologize. But his last name is spelled Koulai, and he's a senior at Louisville. And they put together a record of 12-3-4, and in district they're currently third, and they're 4-3-3. But DJ in the last 5 matches, he's scored in all 5 of those, and he's at 11 goals and 3 assists in those matches. So, congratulations to DJ as well as Louisville for, like I said, you usually see Louisville Marcus, but you don't really see, Louisville, the Farmers. But yeah, congratulations to him, and hopefully he keeps that streak going.
Awesome. Great stuff. Awesome. And great story. Thank you for sharing that with us as well, Steve. That's really, really great stuff. Good insight as well. So, all right, team stickers. I'll go ahead and lead us off as well. So team stickers. So this is where we kind of want to give a shout out, acknowledge teams that have kind of, maybe they're not in the RPI, right? Because there's really only 20 that can ultimately make the RPI, but teams that are getting our attention, teams that maybe we feel should be getting more of a bigger shout out, be getting a little bit more of the respect, a little bit more of the love. And, but we definitely have them on our radar. Excuse me. And so starting off on the girls' side, the Abilene Eagles. All right. So out of District 4-5A. So Coach Tiffany Van Hoos has them, their first year coach, Tiffany Van Hoos has them, they're 12-1-2 overall, in first place, undefeated in District 4-5A. So kind of probably, I would say, in 5A, maybe potentially one of the biggest surprises on the girls' side in 5A this year. So, and then on the boys' side, 20, I've been kind of dropping hints to them. Steve mentioned them earlier, but a team that I feel is not being spoken about anywhere near enough as they should be is the Leander Rouse Rebels, right? So Coach Daryl Knight has them right now. They're 14-1-2, first place, 4-1-1 in district in 25-5A. They have a 16-game unbeaten streak. I think they have 2 draws, actually. I think they're 4-0-2, not 4-1-1. So I believe they have 2 draws in district play, if I'm not mistaken, including one to second place Glenn. So that's a team, Coach Daryl Knight, who we had featured here on the 50-50 podcast back during the Tasco convention. That is a team to keep your eye on in 25-5A, Leander Rouse Rebels. So, Rafa?
So my game sticker, because like I said, they've been kind of flying under the radar for 4A for the boys, as the San Angelo Lakeview Chiefs. Nice. They're actually 15-0-1. They're 7-0 in district, and they're, like I said, they could be one of those teams out there, that could challenge, like I said, Ellie in the playoffs. Yeah. So keep an eye on them. And then for my girls team sticker, I'm going to show some love to Taps. I'm gonna go with the Bernie Geneva girls with a big 6-win win over Cyprus.
Thought you were gonna say St. Mary's Hall, man. Oh, dude, podcast is over. Podcast is over. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, Bernie Geneva, the girls, in Taps, they got a big win over Cyprus Christian School. Right. So now they're gonna face district rival John Paul Church GP2 in the semifinals. Should be a champion. Yeah. Defending champion. But this should be a great game because the 2 games that they played has been very close. So maybe they pull off a Bernie champion like they did Bernie did with Dripping Springs. So good luck to both teams. So, but my game stickers, to the Bernie Geneva girls.
Make no doubt about it. It's Taps It's TAPS and it's 4A. It's the smallest classification in TAPS, but that will be one of the best games in the state played this week. Is Bernie Geneva and Shirts JP2 for sure. So 2 great quality programs. So
It
Steve,
could compete again. It could compete against the 4A state final last year, right? That girls final.
ooh, that's
right?
saying a lot. That's saying a lot. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe.
So for the girls side, it's coming out of District 16. In the 6A side is Bridgeland, and they've put a really solid season together so far, and looking to make a deep run in the playoffs. Their record currently are 18-1, and I believe they're on a 18-game win streak. So they lost, or I could be wrong. I think they lost early in the season against Friendship, which is also Wofford in the RPI.
Right.
So they're in that Cypress district, and they're doing really good things. And like I said, going to be forced to be reckoned with come playoff time. And 66 goals for, and only 8 allowed. So watch out for that the Bridgeland girls team. For the boys, I got to go TAPS also.
Look at you guys.
It's
Awesome.
their last week. Playing
Right.
with the state semifinal for the boys tomorrow, and their final on Wednesday, and then you follow it up with the girls semifinal on Thursday, and their finals on Friday. So my boys is the Central Catholic boys here in San Antonio. So congratulations. I got to go see their match with my uncle, who's actually a Central Catholic graduate. And one of my former players was their striker, Evan Pacheco, and just, comes from an incredible family with his parents, Eve and Jeff, and he's got 3 siblings, and they're all boys. So poor Eve, the mom, she has to deal with all those boys all the time, but no, they're a good family. And but yeah, that Central Catholic team is really solid team.
Yeah.
And they beat a team from Addison, Trinity Christian Academy. That being said, Trinity Christian Academy's goalkeeper, I didn't catch his name, but whoever he is, man, he played a remarkable game. Central won 3-0, but that is the best goalkeeper I've seen so far this year. Just some of the saves he was making on Central Catholic was just unbelievable. So hats off to the Trinity Christian Academy. I know they didn't really have a great season, but that goalkeeper, I mean, it could have been 8-9-0, but he kept them in the match for sure. So, but yeah, no, Central Catholic, good luck tomorrow. And really all the TAPS teams, good luck. Try to get that title for your community.
Yeah. And that's a big shout out. I know, big shout out to Coach Ed Carty, 50/50 podcast alum. He was like one of our very first episodes. I think one of our first 10, maybe.
Great interview. Interview.
And a phenomenal coach. And yeah, I think you can make that argument that, knock on wood. I know he's not gonna be a big fan of me saying this, but I think that Central Catholic is back. They've returned to their form that we've known them as of over the last maybe 5 years or so. So, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see again. TAPS state tournament kicks off tomorrow and runs through Saturday. What is
Friday.
it? March 2nd?
Friday.
Is it? No, I think it runs through Saturday.
Does it run through Saturday?
I think whatever or no, maybe the 3rd. Yeah, whatever the 3rd is.
Yeah,
is
that's
Friday?
Friday.
Is that Friday? Okay, Friday.
So you got the boys semifinals.
I'm thinking
Tuesday.
Saturday is the 3rd. So yeah, the 3rd. You're right.
Yeah.
So good deal. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, that's pretty much going to do it. Before we go, so quick announcement. Be on the lookout. Our next episode of the 50/50 podcast, we will return this Thursday, March 2nd. I don't know why I was thinking March 3rd is Saturday, but Thursday, March 2nd, 8 p.m. Our next guest will be the head women's soccer coach of the Abilene High School Eagles, Coach Tiffany Van Hoos, who we just mentioned a minute ago in our Team Sticker Awards. Very excited for that one. She is doing phenomenal things in year one. She's a Hardin Simmons alum, former player there as well. So she's got them on the right track. So it's one of the many things that we see now more and more in Texas high school soccer is that we're seeing, for lack of better words, soccer people, right? Air quotes, in coaching positions for more and more of these programs, the experience level of more of these coaches. And that's not a knock on coaches who didn't play the game before. That's just it, as we all know, it helps when you have that experience. So yeah, very excited about that one. Coach Tiffany Van Hoos, she will be on the next episode of the 50/50 podcast this Thursday, March 2nd at 8 p.m. So, gentlemen, that's going to do it. No more final thoughts. We're now calling it stoppage time effective this episode. So it's not. So whatever your final thoughts, messages, thank you, shout outs, whatever you want to share, you guys lead the way. The floor is yours. Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. Rafa, thank you for inviting me out. Last Friday night, I got to do my first commentary play. I guess I was the color guy, right? Rafa was doing the play-by-play, and so I was a little nervous doing it. But
what do you think, Rafa? Rafa, what do you think in between? Yeah.
And even doing this, I always get a little nervous before the show. But doing that, I was like, oh man, I've never done anything like that before.
Takes a little to get used to, right? Takes a little to get used to.
It does, but I tell you what, it was so much fun. I had a blast. I mean, it was just really cool. And to me, the games flew by. They went by pretty quick. So shout out to SA Soccer Roundtable. Follow them on Facebook if you want to catch those games. It was the Lee Reagan boys and then the Lee Reagan girls. I know we had a little bit of audio issue in the middle of the first half for the boys and then all of the second half for the boys. So there's no audio there, but for the girls match as well. But by the end of the girls match, I think instead of being nervous, I was more cold than anything. I was, the weather really dropped down, and that darn weather didn't want to decide this weekend if it wanted to be hot or cold, because being at the Central game, I think I took my jacket on and then off and then on and off. But yeah, no, thank you for that. That was really fun, doing that. And I look forward to, if you have me again to do more matches. And that was a lot of fun. So kind of a shout out to Rafa here. I appreciate that. And yeah, that's all I got for this week.
Yeah, the key is remembering it's the opposite of podcasting is you don't talk all the time, right? You don't have to feel that what can be perceived as the awkward silence, right? So that's the difference when you're doing the live play-by-play commentary. So.
Yeah, and I was wondering, if I was ever going to do it. So, in watching, EPL and Champions League and this and that, they don't talk throughout the whole game. You got, your 5-6 seconds where it's just let them play, and like let the audience just kind of see it. And so, well, that was the case for the second half of the boys' match, because we just let them play. Although we were the ones talking the whole half, and none of it was recorded. But no,
it didn't come through.
Yeah, the lapel mic something. I guess they went off because the original ones I had weren't working. So yeah, I used the backup, and then I think the backups I guess drained out. But luckily, I got my original ones back for the girls' game to work on time.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna. Something else, so hopefully I showed Steve what it was. I think
might have to go back to regular traditional headsets, man.
Yeah, well, yeah. I follow like the Liga MX guys, the Univision guys, like play. I like to do their play because they're always talking, but they also crack jokes and stuff during the games and stuff. But I just haven't been able to do the whole goal because I don't want to scare everybody there, going crazy. Yeah. So
that's why
I can't do my El Perro Bermudez. I can't do that.
I always make that argument, though. That's part of the reason why I like to. It's good to be outside. I get it. It's on a case by case basis by the stadium, but I make the argument that our best broadcasts have probably been, at least for Rafa and I, in my opinion, our best broadcasts have been when we've been in the press box, right? You can kind of feel more yourself. You're not inconveniencing other people in the stands. People aren't looking at you like, why is this guy talking to himself? That kind of thing. So
these two guys, what are these two knuckleheads talking about?
Right. Yeah, for sure. So Rafa, stoppage time. Final thoughts.
So thoughts, like I said, check us out Thursday. I'll be on the San Antonio Soccer Roundcast at 7:30 ish. We'll release
roundcast or which one are we talking about?
Roundtable. And the Fancast was Sundays.
Yeah.
So
you confused me there for a second. Gotcha.
So I'll have some RPIs for San Antonio. There are going to be some changes for some of the boys and the girls. So tune in for that, and we'll talk about the games me and Steve did. Just a little round cap, and also rounding up the taps as well. I know we did a taps bracketology. I got 78% of it right, so
nice.
So I'm glad about that. And then just looking forward, hopefully in a few weeks that's bracketology, but we break that record, the 9-hour record, the 8-hour record.
We're up to 9 hours now.
9 hours or 6, 7, who knows? But yeah, so
tune in on that. Midday. Could be around midday.
Yeah, be on the lookout for. Excuse me. Be on the lookout for some teasers regarding UAL bracketology coming up. So some logistics that we have to work out, but it could either potentially be one of our best shows, collaborated shows ever between the Roundtable and the 50/50 podcast, or it could be an absolute dumpster fire, one or the other. Nothing in between. Nothing in between. So awesome. But no, gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate your time again. So there was a lot to cover in this episode, I should say. Special thank you to Jesse Tovar for joining us today. Dropped a lot of great info on us regarding everything regarding soccer out in El Paso right now, regarding the 4 key districts out there in 1-4A, 1-5A, 2-5A, and 1-6A, as well as, in case you missed it, just big shout out to our new partners, Global Scarves, who we just recently announced a partnership with as well. So you'll be seeing more involvement with them coming up in future episodes of both the 50/50 podcast as well as Inside Texas High School Soccer. So that's going to do it. Again, for listeners, for our supporters, thank you for everything you do. Cannot do it without you. And as we always say, you're the reason why we do it. We always mention that. So it keeps us on the straight and narrow, and we never forget what our mission is. So thank you again. And you know what to do. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading